look at the price of oil and demand, how do you see that going? Will prices go a lot higher?
I think always prices is a function of demand-supply fundamentals always. So prices will always react to supply and demand.
And at this point, we have equilibrium,
today,
very fragile equilibrium?
No, I think if you think about today, there is an equilibrium. Basically, the market is balanced. If you ask me about demand and supply, it's balanced today. But I think there is a lot of talk about, availability or how much is spare capacity and all of that. And I think that is an issue.
How much more can demand grow from here as we restart to open up?
I think we were really caught after the pandemic, as economies start to recover. We've seen a strong pickup in demand, to be honest. And a lot were surprised to see that much demand pick up after COVID as economies start to open and people start to. And we are seeing now in certain different countries, different enclaves, different demand patterns. But for example, in the US, you see more pickup on transport fuels. Some areas where there is some lockdowns or whatever, there is still an impact in terms of their demand. But in general, the market is well supplied.
Could you see or foresee a situation where there's so much demand that actually there's just not enough supply and the price of oil shoots up to 150?
Well, I don't want to talk about prices, but today we don't have a lot of spare capacity. Spare capacity is 2% or lower. In a market of 100 million barrels, that is very low spare capacity. Usually spare capacity give a comfort to the market that in case of any type of disruptions, interruptions anywhere in the world, that spare capacity will kick in and will supply the market. Right now it is going down, and it's quickly as OPEC and OPEC Plus releasing 400,000 every month. So very soon you have a world that 100 million barrels or more with basically no spare capacity.
So does that make you nervous, not having that buffer, that prices shoot up uncontrollably and that hurts demand?
It's always good to ensure that there is enough spare capacity in the market to supply or to mitigate any interruptions that might happen. We've seen a lot of interruptions that's happening in different parts of the world, and that spare capacity will always help. Right now, I have been talking about for a long time, lack of investment is really not bringing additional supplies to the market, and there's not much investment going on.
So what's the solution for that? Because even if we start investing now, because of the crisis in Ukraine, the timeline is going to not match when we need possible extra supply.
You are absolutely correct. We have been, since 2014, we're spending approximately $700 billion. We went down to almost $300 billion. We picked up a little bit to close to $400 billion in terms of investment. But that is not enough, especially with the increase in commodity prices. So you need more in order to even maintain your current supply in the market. It will take years to build any project. We announced our increase in capacity by 1 million barrels in 2020, and it will come to the market in 2027. So it takes time to do engineering, and it takes time to bring that capacity to the market.
Does it mean that we could see a lot of volatility in prices from now until then?
There is need, as I said, for more investment. There is short-term investment that can happen. Shale oil can come to the market much quicker, but it is short cycle. But you need both. You need also an investment in long-term project with more sustained plateau for 20 and 30 years. And that is not happening that much. We are doing our part in terms of investment, but you need that to happen from all players, all energy companies globally.
Has our relationship with fossil fuels changed because of the war in Ukraine?
No, I think relationship, we always will need fossil hydrocarbons in general as part of the energy mix over the long term. That's our position. While we are building a lot of renewable projects and hydrogen and other projects and nuclear maybe in the future, you need in parallel to ensure that you are investing in hydrocarbons because you need both. Hydrocarbon will always be part of the energy mix over the longer term, and we need that investment. We are seeing right now a lot of talk about no investment in hydrocarbons, but this talk about no investment while we're not doing much about investment on the other side. So we need the investment to go in parallel while we're building a renewable, hydrogen, nuclear, if we are doing any nuclear projects. At the same time, we need in parallel to invest in oil and gas and bring additional barrels and BTUs to the market to make sure it is balanced.
But we used to talk about peak oil, right? Does that get pushed back?
I don't believe we are at peak oil yet, because we are seeing, as I said, everybody talked about we peaked. Yeah. We've seen, we were caught in a surprise when COVID ended that we are seeing more demand. Our view that there will be more demand going forward for hydrocarbon, and that's why we are asking for more investment there.
Talking about your trading unit, will you IPO it?
I think we're always looking at our portfolio. We have done 2 infrastructure deals, a gas line deal and a crude oil deal, pipeline also. We will evaluate and review our portfolio and optimize it, and if there is anything that we intend to do, we will make sure we inform people in due course. Do
you already have an idea of the valuation of the unit, or is it too premature to talk about how much it's worth?
No, I don't. As I said, we are continuously reviewing our portfolio, and it has a lot of elements in it in terms of what we plan to do. And the minute we decide to do something of that nature, we will inform the market accordingly.
How will the trading unit actually change in terms of being able, for example, to trade some non-Saudi oil?
Well, I don't want it as if trading is now going to, as I said, trading is 100% Aramco. When we decide to, if there is a decision to do anything with TradeCo, call it TradeCo, we will inform the market and we'll inform the media accordingly. But right now, this is a lot of talk about TradeCo going into the listing. We will evaluate if there is any, as I said, the whole portfolio of Saudi Aramco is being evaluated, and we will decide accordingly.
So there could be other asset sales?
As I said, it's a huge portfolio that we own, and we will we put a business line, honestly, managing that. They are looking, they are reviewing, they are working hard and looking at everything in Aramco. And if there is anything that, as I said, to come to the market, we will inform the market accordingly.
Well, talk to me a little bit about actually hydrogen, blue hydrogen. How hopeful are you that this will be a big chunk of the energy we'll use in the future?
Well, hydrogen, as I said, blue hydrogen is provided that you can find offtake agreements, because this is a business you need to secure offtake agreements for a long term to start these projects. It's a great market. We've seen a lot of potential markets in Japan and South Korea for blue hydrogen. So we will make our investment based on finalizing all of these offtake agreements and doing the engineering work what's required to bring these projects to the market. And at the same time, we are working on our carbon capture and sequestration to ensure that we have clean hydrogen.
Your targets are in a couple of years. Can you be ahead of them in terms of what you're trying to achieve with renewables?
Well, as I said, everything has a timeline. It depends on when you finish the engineering and write all the offtake agreements, and then the execution of these projects, which takes some time to execute. But we are working on the engineering part of it while we are working on the offtake at the same time.
Talk to me a little bit about how you'll invest. I mean, look, in your first quarter, the numbers were really pretty incredible. How will you invest more in your downstream operations?
Well, we announced also that we are, in addition to gas, oil, we are looking at expanding our liquid to chemical. Yeah. We're looking at up to 4 million barrels of liquid to chemical by 2030, which is very significant. Yeah. So basically, a lot of it will look to pure liquid to chemical plants, or we are investing it in the kingdom or abroad in different parts of the world, like in China and India, in highly integrated refineries, or some of them with more than 50% conversion of liquid to chemical. So we are looking at expanding our downstream portfolio significantly by making huge investment. Of course, as you know, SABIC, we acquired 70% of SABIC, and SABIC will play a big part on that ambition of 4 million, up to 4 million barrels of liquid to chemical by 2030.
And this is in Saudi Arabia? Or
No,
could it also be elsewhere?
No. Part
This
of
is
it in
elsewhere.
Saudi Arabia, and part of it will be in different markets. And we're looking at China, we're looking at India, we're looking at different markets for our liquid to chemical ambition.
So how much would be in Saudi Arabia and how much would be, for
We
example,
will
in
announce
China?
that later as we...
So you have to come back on Bloomberg to talk about it.
I have no problem.
So talk to me a little bit about your gearing. Okay, so it's fallen heavily in the past year, and it's now at 8%. What happens from now?
Well, you know, gearing is a function of the market, you know, as we see things progress in terms of our investment, our revenue. We are optimistic, you know, about what's going to happen this year. So we'll see, but we are optimistic about the market, our revenue, and our investment. We know how much we will spend in our capital, on our dividend plans and all of that, and we're progressing very well in terms of reducing our gearing.
We're sitting here in Europe, and of course a lot of the talk is on energy security and what this region can do to try and weather all of these changes. How many calls do you get from European leaders asking for gas and oil?
Well, you know, we have a lot of deals, by the way, in dealing with Europe. Even before this Russia-Ukraine crisis, we are a big supplier to different parts of Europe, by the way. So we are enjoying good relations with different partners in different parts of Europe, and we will continue to supply these major markets. Europe is important for us in terms of making sure that we have good supply agreements with these markets.